While S&P has cut the country's currency rating a day after Moody's did the same. Well, here to tell us more about the economic impact on the Middle East and the rest of the world, I'm joined by Angus Blair, Head of Research at Beltone Financial. I must begin by saying that you actually do live in Egypt and you were here on business and, and didn't go back for right now. If I can ask you a little bit about what's happening there on the ground. We've got this million-man march today, and when we heard that the army were going to allow that march and sort of legitimise it, it looked like it might go off peacefully, but we are now hearing reports that the police are on the streets. Yeah,
there had been reports this morning that the police are trying to stop some people coming into Cairo on the various roads. I think they're keeping away from where the demonstration is, but that's what we're hearing at the moment.
Now, there is a sense in the outside internationally that we know some of the potential leaders, but Mohammed al-Baradei, who's well known internationally because of his UN role, and Omar Suleiman, who has been sort of legitimised by Mubarak by making him a deputy, aren't necessarily the most likely candidates as far as the people are concerned.
Yeah, the global media, I think, are really missing some of the story here. Obviously, Mohammed al-Baradei is a very key global figure and a famous Egyptian. He's not very well known internally because he's only recently come on the political scene over the last year, and he has to make himself better known, although the Muslim Brotherhood said that they would back him as an interim president. And he himself, I think, has said that he would only be an interim president. Omar Suleiman is still there. He's the vice president. In the past, people would have been happy if he'd become president. I would say that one other figure to look out for at the moment is Amr Moussa, who's the former foreign minister of Egypt. He's head of the Arab League. And last night, he seemed to issue a statement saying that he welcomed a peaceful transition. He's another candidate, but someone may come from obscurity here that we don't know, some left-field candidate, who knows, that would be acceptable to all sides in time in terms of the discussions, because Omar Suleiman has made it clear he wants to talk to the various groups, because right now it's a very disparate group in Egypt, because the people, they know what they want, but they don't know what they want at the same time, if that makes sense.
Indeed. And of course, one of the major concerns would be that there would be this kind of a vacuum or some kind of instability. From a financial perspective, a lot of people have been trying to get their money out of Egypt. The banks there are closed. Presumably it's not possible to do that even if you wanted to as an investor.
Last week it was quite clear money was leaving, people putting money overseas. You have to remember, though, Andrea, it's only from 1999 until 2004 Egypt went through an economic crisis, and therefore it's a raw pain from that period, so people were nervous, even though the confidence had been boosted by the policies of the last PM and the Minister of Trade and Finance had done a super job boosting sentiment within Egypt. But obviously the banks are closed, the stock market is closed, so at the moment the GDRs are trading. So we can tell what the reaction would be, I think, a little bit by what happened in the GDRs yesterday and today.
Now, as far as your clients are concerned and investors generally are concerned, what would your advice be to them with regard to Egypt? It's such a fluid situation.
Exactly. Well, I said to your colleague Margaret Brennan in New York yesterday, what I would say today would be different perhaps from tomorrow, but clearly Egypt's the most open, transparent market of the region and very well known by global investors. The stock market in the last two trading days of last week fell about 16%, 17%, and on the GDRs, the GDR openings on yesterday morning fell 20%, but they recovered towards the end of the day, and they recovered again today. And I think that when the stock market opens, you're probably going to see a plunge, and then you're going to see investors coming in, I think, in size from both the local market and internationally.
Do you think we're looking at a key moment here, not just in Egypt, but also potentially around the region? Because some of the factors of high youth unemployment and inflation that are affecting Egypt are very similar in many other countries in the region.
The inflation issues there, it's rising everywhere. Egypt was much higher than elsewhere, and we have said for ages it's been unsustainable for any country to have 17% year-on-year inflation. You're quite right, though, to point out the demographics. The demographic issues will affect other countries in the region, but I don't think just the Middle East, North Africa region. I think that this will affect other countries in terms of the contagion from the perception that the leaders are not all powerful. So this will become a global issue, which I think you will see over time, and I think it will also make changes, I think, and I mentioned this too before, in terms of diplomacy. The way in which governments engage with each other has to be at a much deeper level. A bit too profound to mention today, I think, but I think you'll see a number of changes taking place in a different shape and form in the region, even in the Gulf states.
Angus Blair, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
You're welcome.